Editor's note: the opinions in this article are the author's, as published by our content partner, and do not necessarily represent the views of MSN or Microsoft. This may be the most dangerous time in human history. In a dramatic recent decision, the Bulletin of the Atomic Scientists has moved its iconic doomsday clock ahead from 3 minutes to only 2.5 minutes to midnight. Humankind faces two existential challenges of global and potentially apocalyptic scope: nuclear weapons and climate change. Our focus here is on nuclear dangers, but we strongly encourage you, Presidents Trump and Putin, to undertake in a spirit of urgency all necessary steps to avert further global warming. As the leaders of the United States and Russia, the two countries with the largest nuclear arsenals, you have the grave responsibility of assuring that nuclear weapons are not used, or their use overtly threatened, during your period of leadership. The most certain and reliable way to fulfill this responsibility is to negotiate with each other, and the other governments of nuclear-armed states, for their total elimination. The US and Russia are both obligated under Article V of the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty to engage in such negotiations in good faith for an end to the nuclear arms race and for complete nuclear disarmament. Your success in this endeavor would make you heroes of the nuclear age. Initiating a nuclear war, any nuclear war, would be an act of insanity. Between nuclear weapons states, it would lead to the destruction of the attacking nation as well as the nation attacked. Between the US and Russia, it would also destroy civilization and threaten the survival of humanity. There are still nearly 15,000 nuclear weapons in the world, of which the United States and Russia each possess some 7,000. Approximately 1,000 of these weapons in each country remain on hair-trigger alert. A catastrophe waiting to happen that could be prevented with the stroke of a pen. If nuclear weapons are not used intentionally, they could be used inadvertently by accident or miscalculation. Nuclear weapons and human fallibility are an explosive combination, which could at any moment bring dire consequences to the US, Russia and the rest of humanity. The world would be far safer by negotiating an end to policies of nuclear first use, hair-trigger alert and launch-on warning. Further, negotiations need to be commenced on the phased, verifiable and irreversible elimination of nuclear weapons. Nuclear deterrence presupposes an unrealistic view of human behavior if projected over time. It depends on the willingness and ability of political leaders to act with total rationality in the most extreme circumstances of stress and provocation. It provides no guarantees of sustained security or physical protection. It could fail, spectacularly and tragically, at any moment. The further development and modernization of nuclear weapons by the US, Russia and others, and the proliferation of nuclear weapons to other countries, would make for an even more dangerous world. It is important for the sake of regional peace and the avoidance of future nuclear confrontations to uphold the international agreement that places appropriate limitations on Iran's nuclear program. An agreement that has the support of the 5 permanent members of the United Nations Security Council plus Germany. Your nuclear arsenals give each of you the power to end civilization. You also have the historic opportunity, should you choose, to become the leaders of the most momentous international collaboration of all time, dedicated to ending the nuclear weapons era over the course of a decade or so. This great goal of nuclear zero can be achieved by negotiating, as a matter of priority, a treaty to ban and eliminate nuclear weapons. We, the undersigned, implore you to commence negotiations to reduce the dangers of a nuclear war, by mistake or malice, and immediately commit your respective governments to the realizable objective of a nuclear weapons-free world. It would be the greatest possible gift to the whole of humanity and to all future generations, as well as of enduring benefit to the national and human security of Russia and the United States. David Krieger is president of the Nuclear Age Peace Foundation. Richard Falk is professor emeritus of international law at Princeton University. Noam Chomsky is professor emeritus at MIT. Jody Williams is the chair of the Nobel Women's Initiative and is a Nobel Peace Laureate. Daniel Ellsberg is a former Pentagon consultant and a well-respected author. Medea Benjamin is co-founder of social justice movement Coda Pink. Mayra Maguire is co-founder of Peace People in Northern Ireland and is a Nobel Peace Laureate. The views of contributors are their own and are not the views of the Hill. With his young presidency besieged by disorder and discord, the commander-in-chief was at once angry and jovial. Trump chided perceived enemies. He indicted leakers. He absolved himself of blame. And he excoriated the media, once the fake news, now the very fake news. But the president also put on a show. He bantered and cajoled. He was playful, even. He waved away tough questions. The whole Russian thing, and cried out for friendly ones, congratulating a reporter who solicited his thoughts on the great work of First Lady Melania Trump. Journalists trying to probe for facts, hold the president to account and correct his grandiose exaggerations in real time became set pieces in the image Trump wanted to project to America during an afternoon of must-see television. The president is in charge. Trump gave the legions of Americans who put him in office just what they wanted to see and what his spokespeople and advisers could not do for him, which is demonstrate that he is the boss. I love this, Trump said. I'm having a good time doing it. The question is how much control Trump has beyond his performance. The gold-draped East Room of the White House. The president's erratic showing seemed to leave much of official Washington alarmed, and the Gasterin may not have convinced doubters that he can govern smoothly. With Thursday's news conference, Trump was trying to regain authorship of the storyline of his presidency and distract from the burgeoning scandal surrounding reported communications to Russian officials by his now ousted national security advisor, Michael Flynn, and members of his political team. It was a classic Trump stroke, tried to move past a difficult news cycle by creating a new one. During his campaign, Trump time and again staged news conferences or gave provocative interviews or unspooled fresh attacks at his rallies to divert the media's gaze to an ever-shinier object. Trump is expected to continue his offensive Saturday when he stages the first mega rally of his presidency, in Melbourne, Florida. The event is being put on by his campaign organization, not the White House, an unusual move for a president nearly 4 years out from a re-election bid. The president began his Thursday news conference with opening remarks, 24 minutes of them that he appeared to read from papers at his lectern. He was the complainer-in-chief, resentful and melancholy. He sought to assign blame for just about everything that he believes ails America. Not enough people feeling optimistic about his presidency. It's the media's fault. The press, honestly, is out of control, he said. The level of dishonesty is out of control. Companies moving jobs overseas, wages too low, crime in Chicago, conflict in the Middle East, terrorism spreading, aggression in North Korea. It's former President Barack Obama's fault. To be honest, I inherited a mess, he said. It's a mess, at home and abroad a mess. The failure of his executive order to institute extreme vetting on all refugees and travelers from 7 majority Muslim nations. It's the federal judiciary's fault. That circuit is in chaos, and that circuit is, frankly, in turmoil, he said of the Ninth Circuit, where the Court of Appeals upheld a ruling that halted enforcement of Trump's travel ban. In a sign that Trump intends to govern as a permanent campaign, he dismissed citizens who have been demonstrating at congressional town hall meetings to preserve the Affordable Care Act. They are not the Republican people that our representatives are representing, he said. It has become a trademark of the 45th president to boast about his electoral college victory and, in signature Trumpian fashion, he exaggerated Thursday about his place in history. I guess it was the biggest electoral college win since Ronald Reagan, Trump said. NBC-TMS Peter Alexander confronted Trump with his misstatement, pointing out that Obama received 365 electoral votes in 2008 and 332 electoral votes in 2012. And that George H.W. Bush received 426 electoral votes in 1988. Why should Americans trust you when you accuse the information they receive of being fake when Murray providing information that's incorrect? Alexander asked Trump. Well, I don't know, Trump said. I was given that information. Trump showed that, more than being an executive or military commander, he is a media critic. He attacked reports of White House missteps and melodramas as sensationalist and unfair, and their sources as criminals. I turn on the TV, open the newspapers, and I see stories of chaos, Trump said. chaos. Yet it is the exact opposite. This administration is running like a fine-tuned machine. Trump decried leaks to the Washington Post and the New York Times in his words, the failing New York Times. He called the story on the front page of the Wall